Hello dear friends, welcome back to the channel. I've missed you all. We're going to talk about Ukraine, and how the Russia-Ukraine war is spinning out of control once again. Europe is on edge, the streets may look calm, but behind the curtains, something is brewing. And this time, the instability is spreading, from Moscow to Washington, and deep into European capitals. Much of this turbulence, believe it or not, is tied to one man, Donald Trump. His return to power has changed everything. For America, for Russia, and for Europe. Europe today stands on the edge of chaos. Another great war could erupt, unless, by some miracle, the right leaders take the right steps at the right time. But when we look across the European continent, can you name a single leader with real charisma, someone capable of uniting Europe and calming Russia? There isn't one. Not Macron, not Scholz, not Sunak. Europe lacks visionaries. Everyone used to trust the United States to lead. After all, America was the world's anchor. A political, military, and economic superpower. A country capable of starting wars and stopping them. But with Trump back in charge, that sense of stability is gone. It's as if a 6-year-old got hold of the world's most powerful toy and is now pressing random buttons. That's the dangerous part. We've said this many times before, the global order we live in today was built after World War II, designed and dominated by the United States. Washington built the United Nations, the World Bank, the IMF, the Bretton Woods system, and most importantly, it replaced gold with the US dollar as the backbone of the global economy. For decades this system worked, but only because the US kept the world stable enough to trust it. Now that order is cracking. China and Russia are no longer playing by America's rules. Even smaller regional powers, in Africa, Latin America, and Asia, are refusing to simply follow orders from the West. You can see coups in African countries where generals openly call Europe the old colonizer and kick them out. The world is changing, not necessarily for better or worse, but definitely toward chaos. China still hasn't reached the strength to build its own global system, but it's getting close. Russia, meanwhile, lost its Soviet superpower status long ago, and now seeks respect as at least a great power. Putin's goal is not to rebuild the USSR, but to restore the glory of Imperial Russia. He wants to be the new Peter the Great. Recently, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov showed up to an international summit in Alaska wearing only a t-shirt that said USSR, in Alaska, freezing cold, and he comes wearing Soviet nostalgia on his chest. That wasn't an accident, that was a message. Russia misses its empire. Of course, nothing Lavrov does happens without Putin's approval. It was Putin's way of saying to Europe, you fools still don't get it. We want power, real power. Putin dreams of being remembered as Russia's second greatest leader, right after Peter the Great, the man who dragged medieval Russia into the modern world during the 17th century. Every factory, every fleet, every reform in Russia traces back to him. And now Putin wants his name right beside Peter's, the new great Peter of the 21st century. Trump, on the other hand, sees himself in a similar light, but for America. He once boasted, historians ranked me as one of America's top 3 presidents. Washington was first, Lincoln was second, and I'm third. But Trump wasn't satisfied with third place. He said, I can't surpass George Washington, the founding father, but I might climb higher than Lincoln. Think about that for a moment. Lincoln's legacy was built on the Civil War, uniting a divided nation through blood and fire. For Trump to surpass Lincoln, what would it take? Another civil war. He's already dividing America more than ever. Blue states versus red states. Truth versus lies. Police against people. The divisions are deeper than at any time in modern history. And as strange as it sounds, Trump may be pushing America closer to an internal conflict again. In the past, America's military focus was global, the Middle East, Asia, Europe, but Trump seems to be turning the US back toward the Western Hemisphere. He's deploying forces in Latin America, talking tough about Venezuela, and even joking about Greenland as if it's an American colony waiting to be claimed. Could America ever attack Canada again? Historically, it happened, in the early 1800s. You might laugh at the idea today, but remember, no one like Trump has ever ruled America before. A leader driven by ego, impulsiveness, and a lack of empathy. Even his own mother once said that about him. So, would he provoke conflicts just to prove a point? Absolutely. Now, let's turn to the main topic. Jing Stomber Ram, Mike Ein Tape now. Ukraine. Trump has flipped his position again. Just days ago, he called meeting Putin a waste of time. Yet only last week, he was preparing for a peace summit in Budapest. At first, Trump proposed a simple ceasefire. Every army stops where it stands. But within hours, Russian forces ignored him and kept attacking Ukrainian cities. A Russian missile even hit a kindergarten, killing a child. Then Ukraine responded in a bold new way. For the first time, it used British-made long-range missiles to strike targets inside Russian territory. That's a major escalation. And a dangerous one. Russia warned repeatedly, if Western weapons hit Russian soil, nuclear retaliation would be on the table. Moscow stayed silent for now, but make no mistake, that silence is ominous. Meanwhile, Britain's defense secretary publicly declared that Putin sees the United Kingdom as Russia's #1 enemy, not the US, not Ukraine, the UK. Why? Because Britain has been flooding Ukraine with weapons. In the last 6 months alone, the UK delivered 85,000 drones to Ukraine. 85,000. If you arm someone that heavily, of course Russia will see you as the main threat. The UK also promised to speed up deliveries, drones, missiles, ammunition, everything. That's why tensions are boiling between Moscow and London. Trump's behavior only adds to the chaos. Within hours he can change positions completely. On Thursday he wanted to send long-range missiles to Ukraine. On Friday, Putin called. They spoke for 2 hours. By Saturday, Trump froze the shipment. Then he announced he would meet Putin in Budapest. A meeting later postponed indefinitely. When asked why, Trump said, meeting Putin would be a waste of time. But he added, things can change any day. And that's the problem. With Trump, the world never knows what will happen next. 1 week, he's ready to arm Ukraine. The next, he's practically acting as Russia's spokesperson. He's unpredictable, impulsive, and dangerously confident. Putin insists he won't agree to a ceasefire. Why? Because a pause would let Ukraine rebuild its army, replenish ammunition, and recruit new soldiers. For Moscow, that's unacceptable. Meanwhile, Washington fears another Alaska summit disaster. The meeting last August where Putin reportedly outmaneuvered Trump, leaving the US humiliated. That's why the planned Budapest summit was canceled. No one in the White House wanted a repeat. Even the pre-summit meeting between the Russian and US foreign ministers was scrapped. They only spoke by phone and achieved nothing meaningful. Trump then floated a peace plan, stop fighting immediately along current front lines, but Russia rejected it outright. Lavrov said Moscow isn't interested in a temporary peace, only a permanent one, under its conditions. And those conditions? Brutal. Ukraine must withdraw completely from the regions Russia claims, Donbass, Luhansk, and beyond. Ukraine must surrender its heavy weapons. NATO forces, American, British, French, must never set foot on Ukrainian soil again. In short, Russia wants Ukraine's keys handed over, its weapons confiscated, and its future government chosen by Moscow. The White House saw there was nothing to negotiate, and so the Budapest meeting was quietly buried. Still, Trump isn't giving up on a deal with Russia. He wants to end the Ukraine war, not by protecting Ukraine, but by giving Putin just enough to calm him down. Trump's logic is simple. If Russia feels respected, it won't side too closely with China. Because in Trump's eyes, China, not Russia, is America's true enemy. Beijing refuses to bow down. Every time Washington acts, China counters. Every sanction, every tariff, Beijing hits back. That's why Trump wants to pull Russia closer, even if it means sacrificing part of Ukraine. He dreams of dividing the world again, America and Russia on one side, China isolated on the other. But Putin isn't playing along. He wants benefits without giving anything back. Trump, meanwhile, keeps thinking he can outdeal him, as if world wars are just another business negotiation. And now, we have a dangerous new twist. Ukraine just confirmed that it used British-made Storm Shadow missiles to hit a chemical plant deep inside Russia, about 100 kilometers beyond the border in the Bryansk region. That plant produced explosives and rocket fuel for the Russian military. The attack succeeded. The missiles broke through Russia's air defense system and hit their targets. These Storm Shadow missiles are serious weapons, nearly a ton in weight, with a range of 500 kilometers and a speed close to 1,000 kilometers per hour. And remember, Russia has repeatedly warned that if its territory is struck by Western missiles, it might respond with nuclear weapons. The world is entering dangerous territory. So, where does this leave us? On one side, we have Putin, the man who dreams of being the new Peter the Great. On the other, Trump, who compares himself to Washington and Lincoln, believing he can rewrite American history. And between them lies Ukraine, a shattered nation, paying the price for the ambitions of two men and the silence of Europe. If this war continues the way it's going, it won't just be about borders or territory. It will be about the collapse of diplomacy itself, the death of reason in international politics. Friends, what we're witnessing isn't just another geopolitical dispute, it's the unraveling of the world order we've known for nearly 80 years. Let me know what you think. Will Trump and Putin's unpredictable moves drag the world into a deeper conflict, or is there still a slim chance for peace? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every one of them. And if you found this analysis insightful, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into global events. Your support helps this channel grow, and helps independent voices like ours stay alive in a world full of noise and propaganda. Thank you so much for watching, friends. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.